Welcome to the Accessible Learning Experience, where we help you turn learning barriers into learning opportunities. This is a really special episode for us. We're joined by CAST CEO Lindsay Jones and our entire technical assistance team at CAST, consisting of Cynthia Curry, Christine Fox, Maggie Pickett, Michelle Soriano, and me, Luis Perez. We begin this episode by defining what we mean by technical assistance at CAST and what makes our approach unique. We then share some of our favorite CAST technical assistance resources based on the different roles and tasks, such as creation or acquisition, that are involved in creating more accessible and barrier-free learning environments for all students, including those who have disabilities. Here's Lindsay with the CAST technical assistance team.
Hi, TA team. I'm so thrilled to be here with you and serve as a host on the Accessible Learning Experience podcast. What a great opportunity to share with our audience your terrific work, the terrific work our CAST TA team does every day on behalf of learners with disabilities and their families. You know, in my experience, the term technical assistance is often misunderstood. I've had people say to me it's a bit legal. They don't exactly know what it means. It conjures an image of kind of a one-time service, like an email, a phone call. I think it's so much more than that. I've learned so much already being here with you and watching your incredible work. I know we're going to get into a whole bunch of things about technical assistance, but before we do that, I thought it would be fun to ask you all, what word or phrase comes to mind when you think of CAST's TA?
I'm happy to start us off. The word that comes to mind is intentional.
And for me, that word that comes to mind is innovative.
For me, it's timely.
And for me, it's ongoing support.
And for me, it's caring and relationships.
Well, those are amazing answers. And I love how all of them are the furthest thing from sort of legalistic, bureaucratic, technical, distant support. I love that answer, caring. All of them are great. So Cynthia, you lead our technical assistance work here at CAST. Can you give us an overview? What's the goal and who are the beneficiaries of our work?
Thanks for this question, Lindsay, because the goal of our technical assistance is to support educators, and this is to improve access to both assistive technology and general education materials and technologies for students with disabilities. And I use the term educator to represent any individual or group that really advances teaching and learning. And of course, our stakeholders include parents and caregivers. We provide TA through lots of varied activities, but the heart of our work is establishing relationships with education agencies like state departments of education, school districts, early childhood programs, and post-secondary institutions. And we help them build their capacity to improve outcomes for students who commonly experience barriers to the materials and technologies that are used in learning environments every day. So technical assistance is delivered in lots of different ways through training, coaching, and advising. We do a lot of convening of stakeholders, focus groups, working groups, and our team really prides ourselves on our listening and observing skills. We love to learn from the field, and we use that to innovate our products and services.
I love it. It sounds like total co-design process really built on collaboration and support across the field, which I've definitely seen. And it seems like the best way to increase adoption of these really important practices. So I know that we operate 2 National Technical Assistance Centers here, the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials for Learning, also known as the AEM Center, and we operate the Center on Inclusive Technology and Education Systems, or something we call CITES. So I want to ask each of our amazing casties here, what is your favorite aspect of working with each of these centers? And Christine, let's start with you.
You know, the opportunity to engage with leaders across the country is empowering, especially when district leaders and educators are excited about the support we provide. I also appreciate the opportunity to fill gaps they might have with CITES resources and to take their feedback and create new resources that can support the field.
Oh, I love that about empowering educators. It sounds a lot like what Cynthia was saying in terms of increasing collaboration, making all parts of the system work better together. Let's go to Maggie. Maggie, what about you? What's your favorite thing?
Yeah, I love this question because for me, it's the same thing as when I was in the classroom, right? It's those light bulb moments. It's those moments where in the classroom it was learners, but now it's a district administrator, it might be an educator, it might be a state coordinator. And there are those moments where the learning experiences we've provided, whether it's coaching support or some sort of professional learning, there are light bulb moments. Those are truly life-giving, and we get to see them across various different perspectives all the time. But it's those are the moments that I live for sure.
Oh yeah, that's so exciting. I definitely feel like everybody gets into education, right, to help and to have those moments because we are lifelong learners, and so I can definitely see where that experience would be so fulfilling. All right, Luis, what about you? What's your favorite?
My favorite thing is definitely knowing how far reaching our impact is as a national center, or as national centers that not only provide high quality content through our websites, our publications, and our other technical assistance offerings, but also, as has been mentioned already, our focus on relationship building that improves the timely provision of accessible educational materials for all students who need them. And as a person with a disability myself, I know how life-changing it can be when you have the information when and how you need it so that you can be successful no matter what your goal in life is. So I can definitely see our impact not only on a global level, but on a personal level.
Oh, absolutely. It is. It's so exciting to know, and I think empowering that we can change the design of the world. The design is what is keeping us back, not the individuals. And so that's great. That's really exciting. Michelle, what about you? What's your favorite?
There are so many aspects of providing technical assistance to these two centers that make my heart burst with joy. But specifically, I love how even the smallest of supports, sharing of tools, conversations, and brainstorming sessions can magnify the impact for educators and learners. There's an old proverb that says, little by little, a little becomes a lot. And being able to support this concept is something that I look forward to each and every day in this role.
Oh, I love that proverb. I love it. It makes me I always think of good begets good, right? And how when we push things forward, more things will come and more growth will be seen. So it's exciting. Well, one thing I've been really impressed with as I've learned more about the Technical Assistance Center's work here, AIM and CITES, is the breadth of audience. Cynthia, you kind of went into this a little bit, but it's everybody, and that it takes a village to make all of this work, and it really is a calling for these centers to have to work with so many. So we know that audience of this podcast also is made up of a lot of people with different roles and responsibilities all across the education system, from early learning through post-secondary. So let's help them get started with CAST's incredible resources. To do that, I'm just going to ask each of you to highlight your recommendations for what different audiences could really use and take advantage of from CAST on our site and from all the incredible work you're doing that's out there. So, all right, Maggie, let's start with you. What would you recommend for helping districts engage with families?
Yeah, so we have across both technical assistance centers, but really a big primary focus at CITES recently has been this family engagement perspective. When we dug into the research and started looking at family engagement across the CITES framework, we recognized that there wasn't a lot of research. and after COVID, there was this huge need to really inform the field about how to truly engage parents in learning, especially learning, remote learning, virtual learning, but just digital learning for students with disabilities. And so we've been working really hard in the background, building our knowledge, doing some research with our research partner, Angel Morgan. We've got a lot of really great things kind of coming out. There's nothing on the website yet, but soon we hope that the CITES framework will truly be a representation of how districts can engage families across each area of the framework. But if you're a family member right now and you're like, hey, I need some help. I just found out my student has dyslexia, for example. What can I do to help him or her access their learning materials? The AEM Center has a really great personalized the reading experience webpage on their website. It's a webpage, and it's just a plethora of tools that the team, and I can just see Luis live in the page, but it's just a plethora of tools and resources and supports that learners can use to engage with their materials. And so just take a dive into that page and kind of get to know what are some of these features, what are some of these tools. And then the second thing I would say, if you're again kind of new in this realm of supporting your child, whether you're a grandparent or a parent or you're a caregiver, go check out the Center for Parent Information and Resources, CIPR. They're a partner of our centers. They support a national network of parent centers across the country. So each state has a network space, and folks can are there to help and support you as a parent. So those are two things that I'd kind of say right now, but be checking out the CITES website as we continue on this journey to develop the framework.
Great. I can say thank you for those resources as a parent of a kid with a 504 and who has ADHD. COVID-19, Zoom, and online learning were a real interesting experience in our house, and we observed education. Even as someone who's worked in this arena and for a long time, these resources and the clarity that they're presented with are so important because those situations are really they can feel very overwhelming. So I think I just applaud the work you're doing. It's really amazing, and definitely would encourage any parents to reach out and check those resources out. Okay, Christine, what would you recommend for helping districts improve their technology infrastructure?
As with most things in education, planning is key. The core of CITES is bringing together AT assistive technology, IT, infrastructure technology leaders, and also education technology leaders. And we launched the infrastructure practices on the CITES website right at the beginning of the school year this year. And specifically on that page, there is a section dedicated to personalized learning devices. And, planning with the leadership in a district and a school is so critical. And then being able to have devices that support all students, and then the tools and resources within those devices that different students can leverage as needed. And that is really critical. Instead of trying to retrofit what is purchased by a district, we're providing those devices in advance so that they're available in real time for students as they need them. Coupled with that, and you did mention learning from home, CITES also published a set of resources and did research on virtual learning environments, a variety of programs. And as part of that, we have a resource on specifically on AT and accessible education materials and how those are so critical, as we all know, but how to tap into the needs of students if they are working remotely, whether during the school day or after school and at home.
Well, those sound terrific. Again, so useful. And, I think even though in many ways COVID-19 has ended, can we even say that? But it is something we're seeing, I know, in my own son's school district. Snow days are going to be asynchronous. There'll be lots of online learning going forward, which can be really good as long as we have resources like this to help us navigate through many of those complexities. Okay, let's move to, what are some of the areas on the site where you direct teachers, the areas that help teachers and higher ed instructors improve the accessibility of the materials they are creating? Luis, what would you recommend?
I would definitely recommend checking out the Create section of our website, which we'll, of course, share in the show notes to this podcast. We have resources for creating accessible versions of educational materials in a variety of formats. And a great place to start is the Accessible Documents page, because we know that that's something that faculty, instructors, teachers often have to do, is create an accessible document. And that page focuses on just 5 best practices, which are captured in an easy-to-remember mnemonic slide that can help anyone who's new to accessibility get started with some load lifts and some easy wins. In addition to the content, which is available in both text and video formats, we provide an opportunity for teachers to practice their new skills with a Try It Yourself section that includes practice files. so that you can start building your confidence as an accessibility ally who creates and shares accessible content with students, with families, and with other educators.
I love that phrase. I haven't heard it, an accessibility ally. What a great phrase that is. I definitely I'm going to steal that and start using that, or just promote it, Luis. Oh my gosh. Well, so Cynthia, I really want to ask you, we've talked around this a little bit, but what on the AIM or CITES, what in those materials can help states and districts and post-secondary institutions help them acquire accessible materials and technologies?
Yeah, so I will pick up on Luis's accessibility ally and think about advocating and leading the acquisition of accessible educational materials and accessible technology as our accessibility heroes. Really implementing some of these practices, and on the way that I would recommend using the AIM Center's resources is on our website. There is an Acquire tab on the main navigation. So Luis was referring to the Create tab. Under the Acquire tab so we try to do this sort of psychologically and logically. If you're looking to acquire accessible materials and technologies, follow the Acquire tab on our website. And on the first page, you will see a title called Pathways to Acquisition. So this really clearly lays out that there are two pathways to providing accessible materials and technologies for students, and that is either purchasing them from the beginning. So in the negotiation with vendors, in the contract process, really open communication with the providers, with the vendors, with the publishers, and being clear about the accessibility expectations that you have and the requirements. We have sample language around procurement of accessible materials and technologies. We have guidance for understanding what's known as the VPAT, or the Voluntary Product Accessibility Template, which is also an accessibility conformance report. So we have lots of guidance there to support any team, whether it's a state team, a district team, in higher ed, regardless. Really, the process is the same, and it's about engaging those vendors in conversations about, we want accessible materials and technologies for all of our students, including students with disabilities. The other pathway is what happens if you don't purchase or procure accessible from the beginning, and that would be to retrofit and to provide what are known as accessible formats for students. So not everything can be retrofitted, but there are some materials that can be provided to students in Braille, large print, digital text, audio, tactile graphics. So in those cases, there are procedures. They can be complicated, and so we try to provide really clear, supportive resources to help guide teams through the process of both making the determination for students who need accessible formats, the sources for how to acquire those, and then how to use them for teaching and learning. So the Acquire tab of the AIM Center website.
It just sounds so important, because it's not only resources that help districts plan for this in the future, but also can help you right today, immediately. How can I make these things accessible? So it's really comprehensive help in both cases. So that's great. So let's turn to Michelle. Michelle, I want to ask you a big one here, kind of, what would you recommend for helping states and districts if they want to improve their coordination around providing accessible educational materials and accessible technologies for all learners? Kind of summing up, we've talked a lot about collaboration and coordination. What do you think? Where would you direct someone to start?
Great question. Well, the first thing I would do is we would celebrate. We are going to celebrate their decision to want to move forward and improve that. But beyond that, I would first guide them through the Coordinate tab on the AIM Center's website, where they will find numerous resources to support their coordination around providing AIM and accessible technologies for learners. However, there are 3 supporting resources found within that Coordinate tab that I would specifically like to point out. The first resource being the AIM quality indicators. This resource provides information on 7 indicators that help make up the coordinated system. There are quality indicators that are created specific for early childhood, K through 12, higher ed, and workforce development, so really across the lifespan. The next corresponding resource is one of my favorite and most used resources, which is the critical components of the AIM quality indicators. Now, this resource supports teams with understanding the how of creating or expanding their coordinated systems. So if you aren't sure what components need to be considered, where to even start, or how to move forward, the AIM quality indicator critical components resource really does help with the planning, implementing, and evaluating systems for providing accessible materials and technologies for students who need them. And then we have the AIM pilot. Y'all, this is a free online tool that allows state and district teams to set goals and track their progress towards creating more inclusive learning environments. And so this tool really does support that implementation piece of those quality indicators and the critical components for K through 12. Definitely check that out.
That's good. That is great. So that is where accessibility brings the fun, right? Right, all at the end. There's so many good ways to work together, and so many incredibly free resources. I mean, that is something I really am so happy you just pointed out. So incredible. So last, we've mentioned a lot of website resources, but very important. How can people stay in touch with the AIM and CITES centers? How can they join the work, follow the work here at CAST? What would you recommend? Luis?
Well, definitely visit our website. For the AIM Center, it's aem.cast.org. And for CITES, it's cites.cast.org. That's CITES.cast.org. We encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter for all of CAST. You'll find that on any of our websites. There'll be a link in the footer that allows you to subscribe to the newsletter. So that way you can stay up to date on what we're doing and the continuing development of our work. We're very inviting when it comes to technical assistance requests. So we encourage you to also email us. The email addresses are aem@cast.org and cites@cast.org. That's CITES again. And of course, we're very active on social media. We encourage you to follow the CAST account on Twitter. It's @CAST_UDL. And if you're sharing about accessible educational materials, we encourage you to use the hashtag AEM, the number 4, and all, ALL.
Well, what an amazing discussion, you guys. Thank you so much for inviting me in today to share this with you. I'm so proud of the work that AIM does, that CITES does, that all of the TA work that CAST provides in this area. Everything you're doing to create more accessible experiences for all learners is so important. And I really feel like you've featured so many great and easy start where you are resources here today. It's so easy to just start and be the accessible ally that you want to be, and then the hero that you know you want to be, right? I also just want to thank everyone listening, working hard every day to make our classrooms places where all learners can thrive. It's a big job, and I know I speak for our whole CAST team when I say we're proud to work alongside all of you as we create a better educational environment each and every day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Accessible Learning Experience, brought to you by the National Center on Accessible Educational Materials at CAST. You can find us on the web at aem.cast.org. There you'll find show notes with links to all of the resources mentioned on each episode. Thanks again for listening, and remember, accessibility is everyone's responsibility. The contents of this podcast were developed under a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Department of Education. However, those contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government.